Good day, I am Jabalai Sabaluma and I'm going to report the Chapter 6 Organization for Finance. In as much as the primary purpose of business enterprise is to make profits, the handling of the firm's finances is therefore extremely important. Money is needed to start the business. It is needed when the business is in operation, and it is needed when the business is expanding. Capable handling of finance provides money for these three purposes as it is needed. The financial function. The financial function is essentially concerned with the management of monetary affairs, with the rising and expending of money. It may not be as dramatic a function as manufacturing or sales, but is actually important and very often its direct handling is retained by top management. The chief financial officer may be called vice president for finance, or treasurer, or comptroller depending on the practice of the corporation. This chief financial officer handles cash, banks relations, credit, and quite often the accounting function. He prepares or helps prepare the cash budget, the annual report to stockholders and payrolls or confidential payrolls. He reviews contracts involving financial matters and the ownership, sale, or purchase of property. In the bigger corporations, there may be both a treasurer and a comptroller. In that case, the treasurer handles external finance while the comptroller handles internal finance. Thus, the treasurer arranges the issuance of stocks and bonds, handles the acquisition of short-term loans, furnishes the information required by banks, and advises on the various means whereby the company could raise funds or borrow money. The treasurer suggests the distribution of profits, the payments of dividends, flowing back of earnings into the business, or investments in stocks and bonds of other corporations. The treasurer may insure company assets and authorize disbursements. On the other hand, the comptroller would handle the departments taking care of bookkeeping, accounting, post-accounting, credit and collections, and statistics. The chief financial officer looks for sources of capital. The capital needs of company may be divided into fixed or investments capital consisting of land, buildings and equipments, and working capital raw materials, salaries, wages, and other operating costs. The volume of business turnover and similar factors affect the need for working capital. The capital pool savings and investments. Where does the money came from for the financing of business enterprises? Savings are generated directly and indirectly by the individuals, business enterprises, a variety of institutions, governments, and others. These savings flow into the capital pool or market through many channels. The market is a network of many institutions, channels, and processes distinguished by the sources of their funds, by the direct areas they cover, by the different types of loans they make, and by the variety of borrowers that they serve. Financing the non-corporate enterprise. In the case of the single proprietorship and the partnership, the initial capital comes from the individuals directly interested and possibly through the loans and investments that friends are willing to make in the business. In addition to cash, these individuals may contribute the actual land, buildings, machinery, and materials needed to make up the productive capital of the business. Launching a new enterprise through cash and property contributes of individuals personally interested in the venture is one of the oldest forms of business promotion, and it continues to be an important method of financing today. Initial corporate financing. It is the corporate enterprise that is most concerned with the problem of capitalization. Commonly employed in corporate financing are the corporate securities such as stocks and bonds. Before the basic financial structure 01, the enterprise is complete. The total authorized capital stock must have to be classified. Stock classification determines the relation of stockholders to the enterprise. With this, the rights and limitations of those who have an ownership interest in the business are set. Stocks as corporate financial instrument are explained under the discussion of classes of capital stock. If the capital for a major operation or expansion is, however, to be borrowed, the usual way is by bond issue. Bond issues are company promises to repay the loan and are backed by a mortgage on the part of all the company's property. The mortgage takes the form of a trust agreement, which contains all the rights and obligations between the company borrower and the lender bondholders. The instrument designates a trustee who represents the bondholders, and it defines his powers and obligations. The essential relation between the company and the holders is that of the debtor-creditor. While a stockholder is an owner, a bondholder is a creditor. Bonds are differentiated from other loans of a corporation in that they partake of the nature of mass borrowing. A wider group of persons become creditors of the corporation. In the event of default in payment of interest or principal, the designated trustee in the agreement has the power to take various actions to protect the bondholders. A company desiring to issue bonds must make a careful study of the many different kinds of bond issues, which differ according to the purpose of the issue, the nature of the security, terms of payments, and miscellaneous conditions affecting the interests of the various parties. For instance, there are construction bonds, improvement bonds, equipment bonds, reorganization bonds, general bonds, and other indicating the purpose for which they are issued. Financing day-to-day operations. Once a business is started, the money requirements of the company are continuous for goods, wages, and other expenditures of going concern. Everything a business does results in money coming in or going out and in property being bought or sold. The sales department tries to sell all the goods it can. The purchasing department tries to buy what is needed when it is needed. The treasurer must pay the bills incurred by the purchasing officers, who in turn must protect the purchased materials. The credit manager must effect collection of payment of the goods the sales department has sold. These numerous transactions require proper records and constant supervision, lest money be wasted, property dissipated. Keeping and checking of accounts are done by the accounting department, and the cashier handles the cash, acting for the treasurer, who has the responsibility of being constantly on the watch to see to it that the company's finances are conserved at all times. Cash position. There should be enough money available to pay every obligation when it is due. Such money, except for initial capital and subsequent expansion, should come from cash sales from collection of amounts receivable. The cash position of a company is the amount of money on hand or in sight in relation to the total sum of accounts payable and notes payable coming due during the same period. Careful managers record it frequently, in many cases every day. Financing seasonal businesses. Quite a number of or beach resorts territory different functions of banks. Banks have two functions. They act as middlemen between savers and investors, that is, between the supply of and demand for capital. Finance companies and a few other financial intermediaries. C. Unsecured borrowing. Unsecured short-term loans, lines of credit, and revolving loans. These are called unsecured loans. only in the sense that they are not tied to a specific asset or group of assets. In fact, unsecured credit is secured by the general this rent consists in large measure of specific assets and equipment is able to borrow against its assets, but it should not be able to do both. B. Paper and notes. First, acceptance. Financing most common of such paper, which can be used as an example, is the banker's acceptance. To borrow money through this mechanism, the borrower arranges a line of credit with banker and then issues a series of notes payable in 30 to 180 days. The borrower delivers each note to the bank, and the bank endorses or accepts the note and may retain it in its own portfolio or sell it to the investing public. In the latter case, the purchaser or the note looks on the worthless, thus accepting bank rather than on that of issuing company. The borrower, in effect, is paying the bank for the privilege of borrowing against the bank's credit. Commercial paper. Commercial paper, usually issued by large, well-run companies. This consists of unsecured promissory notes really similar to those which forms the basis for acceptance financing, except that they are not countersigned if accepted by anyone. Commercial papers are sold by a corporation by or through a commercial dealer or directly to an institutional investors at a discount for a maximum term of 9 months. E. Capital financing. Large companies which sell products against installments, less or rental payments, may wish to consider establishing their own finance companies. While such a company will be lending rather than borrowing, a captive a captive finance company with a good record will be able to obtain highly leveraged borrowing against its own name rather than that of the parent company. Second, intermediate term financing. It depends on large measure upon predictions of the business climate, company operations, and cash flow. The extent to which lenders have confidence in the managerial control and forecasting abilities of the borrowers is therefore crucial. A. Leasing. One of the more popular methods of obtaining intermediate financing or long-term financing involves the use of leases. A lease is an instrument which permits a lease to use something, equipment, or a building in return for payments which are made regularly over time to the owner. A lease can be either a finance lease, meat lease, operating lease, true lease, or leverage lease. Third, long-term financing. The longest-term financing is with equity, which occurs when investors turn over cash in return for a part ownership in the company. Evidence of the latter takes the form of a certificate of stock. A. Debentures. By far the largest volume of long-term funds is made available to companies in the form of term loans, either secured or unsecured. Unsecured borrowing, such as that represented by debentures placed privately or sold to the public, essentially is secured by the general credit and financial strength of the issuing company. For this reason, debentures normally contain covenants to protect the holders against loss or diminution of their security. In addition, there normally is a trustee to check upon the financial well-being of the corporation on behalf of the holders and to be prepared if necessary to carry default on their behalf. B. Bonds. Government financing can take the form of direct governmental involvement, or there can be government programs to facilitate borrowings in other ways, such as by providing government subsidies, supervised insurance programs. Sorry, for a weaker company with whom it has a business relationship. The debt appears in the balance sheet of the company for which the guarantee is issued, but the guarantee is not recorded in the balance sheet of the issuing corporation. Petty cash. Although the company usually uses checks in paying bills and most other items, it is necessary occasionally to make small payments by cash. For this purpose, a certain sum of money is entrusted to the cashier sufficient to take care of ordinary cash requirements. This money is called the petty cash fund. The cashier or some other company officials may be authorized to make payments from the fund. All payments must be supported by petty cash voucher. For good purchased. When the company buys goods from others, it receives a bill or invoice for the goods purchased. Checking is done in order to be sure that the goods have been received and are what we ordered. If everything is in order, the bill is approved for payment and appropriate entries are made in the books. The company pays all the bills through the treasurer or his assistants by checks drawn on the bank. The treasurer is responsible for seeing to it that no payment is made that has not often properly checked, verified, and improved, and that checks are carefully drawn and duly recorded. There should be safeguards to prevent the same bill from being paid for than once. Maintaining bank balances. Care must be taken to guarantee only that the bank account is not overdrawn, but that other requirements are also met. The handling of checking accounts by banks involves considerable expense. The two methods commonly used are estimating cash requirement. How could the treasurer know how much is to be required? How to determine the amount needed for routine expenditures as accounts payable, gas, telephone and telegrams, the current purchases, and for non-routine expenditures. There are already known factors of expense which help determine cash requirements. These requirements may be: first, for employee payroll. This is one of the first routine expenditures of the company. Payrolls have to be met every week or every 15th or end of the month. Payday comes regularly and the employees and workers are to be paid without delay. Payrolls may be in three forms, namely the regular salary list, the hourly wage, and the piece rate. Second, for utility service. The usual utility services: telephone, telegram, light, power, and billed and paid monthly. These cash requirements can more or less be routinely predetermined. The third one is for current purchases. Propose the treasurer is concerned for purchases are charged, he will know in advance what to do and can play accordingly. Many companies forbid making any commitments without the treasurer's approval. Since the treasurer is the one who has to provide the cash to pay the bills, it is only reasonable that he should know ahead of time what payments he will have to meet. Funds will have to be set aside and made available for these purchases. The fourth one is the for non-routine expenditures. The fourth one is the for non-routine expenditures. Unusually, expenditures such as the purchase of special equipment or items that may amount to more than a stated sum must be planned for it. In a certain company, a treasurer or any other top-ranking officer may be designated to approve certain amounts according to the company's custom for non-routine expenditures. The company commitment. As commitments are made, they are entered in a commitment sheet, which shows to a treasurer at all times how much money is to be paid out and when. The sheet must be always consulted before additional commitments are approved, since budget approval is considered a sufficient warrant for expenditure. It is obvious that the commitment sheet will reflect budget items also and afford a comparison of expected expenditures with actual ones. The budget will manage business are operated under a budget plan by which an estimate of expected income and expenditures of the company is drawn up in detail, showing where the money is coming from and where it will go. Some concerns prepare the budget in detail so that each department head and branch manager knows exactly for which part of the income and expenditures of the company he will be responsible during the coming year. Actual results are checked with the budget, which those serve as a guide to the profitable operations of the business. A detailed budget does not only include objectives, but it should be backed up by a carefully developed program for the attainment of the objectives. It is a daily chart by which the executive directs the efforts of his staff. The budget is a statement of objectives in terms of specifications. It sets goals to be attained in sales, expenses, production, manufacturing, profits, and so on. These goals, however, do not serve their maximum purposes unless they are supported by carefully detailed plans and programs which indicate sources of action that will make it possible to attain the figures presented in the budget. The budget to be a greatest value requires that constant reference be made not merely for the purpose of seeing to it that operations are kept within the budget figures, but also to follow progress and see that the plans covered in the budget are carried out. The budget is not not a hard and fast rule. Rather, it is a plan and a guide for carrying out a plan. Purposes of budget stated briefly, the purposes of budgets are: first, planning, a systematic and unified plan of activities for designated periods of operation. Second, control, a standard of measurement of results against which variations from previous plans become evident. Third, coordination. Activities become a part of a plan for the enterprise as a whole. Democratic processes basic to the construction and operation of a budget tend to bring understanding and unification of departments and personnel. Protecting the securities of the company. Protection of the company's property is another function of the treasurer. The securities of the company may be kept in the company's own vault, but probably the safest place to keep all securities is in the safe vaults of a bank, which are equipped with time locks, making possible the opening of the vault before a fixed time earlier set. The treasurer or any authorized assistant may have access to the safe deposit vaults anytime during the business day. Armed guards are usually assigned. Access is strictly limited and controlled. Some banks even provide conference rooms adjacent to the safe deposit vaults. No one but the treasurer or his deputies has access to the box or knows what is in it. Managing the real estate of the company. Money and securities are not the only properties of the company that the treasurer must protect. If the company owns real estate and buildings, the treasurer must see that the taxes are paid when they are due, the rents collected if there are tenants, repairs when necessary, insurance taken out and renewed, and the making of improvements properly supervised. Pay taxes when due. Payment of taxes due on the company's property should not escape the attention of the treasurer. At the stated time each year, the company is billed for local taxes on its property. Bills for collection may be lost in the mails or method. The non-receipt of a bill is no excuse for not paying it. If any bill is not received when expected, inquiry should be made. For instance, in the case of purchase invoices, so that the bill may be paid in time to take advantage of each discount, and in the case of tax bills, so that the company will not be liable to penalties for non-payment of taxes when due. See that rents are collected. The collection of rents from tenants to company-owned real estate requires a good follow-up system for getting the money when due. Some tenants are up to date in the payment of rent. However, there are usually some who delay the payment for one reason or another. Every experienced credit manager knows that the longer a debt remains unpaid, the harder it is to collect, and this is particularly true in case of rents. The landlord who gets around promptly after payday at the end of the month will have fewer unpaid rents than the one who is lax in his collections. Leasing company-owned property. Leasing company-owned property is another responsibility of the treasurer. It is necessary that leases are drawn properly, that the company's interest is protected. The renewal or termination of leases may involve notice within a stated time. If not attended to at that time, embarrassing complication may ensue. Maintenance of the property. When repairs are necessary, they should be made promptly. If the property is used in company operations, needs repairs, there is possibility of accidents to employees or damages to the property. In addition, there is the loss of time due to the inability to use the impaired property. If the property is occupied by a tenant, injuries resulting from failure to repair may lead to damage suit. In many cases, adequate and timely maintenance of property will avoid the necessity of extensive and expensive repairs. Systematic records for each piece of company property will help prevent overlooking its possible depreciation. Insurance protection. Adequate insurance on the properties of the company is another responsibility of the treasurer. Insurance protection is not incidental to the operation of a business, it may be vital. Uses of credit information in the Philippines. Our financial system now operates on the basis of huge amounts of information concerning large and medium-scale business units, governmental units, domestic and foreign, and many other institutions that are actual or potential participants in financial markets. The basic data come from any sources, published balance sheets and profit and loss statements, reports the Securities and Exchange Commission and other regulatory government agencies, reports to stock exchanges, special investigations, and so on. Such data are collected and compared, analyzed, and disseminated over wide areas by newspapers, specialized financial publications, investment advisory services, brokers and dealers, and others. Similarly, investors are kept informed about interest rates and other financial conditions in the various regions in the country and abroad. The best management in the world would be helpless without reliable information about its business, not minute-weight but expressive data. The lender wants to see reports firsthand to be assured that they fit into the corporation's overall objectives represents a simple, manageable picture. An accounting firm can provide valuable assistance in the process. Information sources on financing opportunities. First, short-term borrowing. Most important source and possible on loans up to 10 years is the company's bankers. It is from the person or from the more sophisticated bankers to whom the company's own banker will introduce the financing officer that the officer can learn with one exception what short-term financing are available. The exception is that a company for which commercial paper is viable alternative will have to turn for practical advice on the subject to brokers which are prepared to act as intermediaries in selling the paper to the investing public. Second, useful, up-to-date information on long-term borrowing may be obtained from the corporate finance department of any money center, bank, or from a similar department in the office of a major or regional broker. Sound companies with substantial needs may find it practical to talk directly with institutional investors such as insurance companies. Third, advice on the placement of equity is available from members of the underwriting fraternity. Fourth, in the area of the background reading, excellent practical occasional papers are disseminated by leading banks and underwriters. Fifth, explain fully the differences between stocks and bonds, the reasons why one and not the other is issued, and how their issue is regulated. And I will end my report by saying the great differentiator in business is when an organization steps out and creates values from something never tried before. Carrie Baskins. Thank you so much and God bless you.